Hello guys, welcome to Howutrade tutorial on Future to Option Zerodha Excel tool. Now before going to the main content of this video, I hope you guys have already downloaded the Trader application for Zerodha from Howutrade website. So if you haven't, it is a simple process, do not worry about it. You just need to visit the howutrade.in website, go to the download section, and here Trader for Zerodha API will be the first application that is available for download. So please download this and install this in your system if you haven't already. I have done this already. So this is the Trader application. So in here you need to log in with your own credentials. Now assuming that you guys have already done this, let's move to the main scope of this video. This is the Future to Option Zerodha Excel tool, and you could see several boxes here like strategy, manual actions, index info, index levels, and so on. I will go one by one explaining them as quick and easy as possible. The first box, strategy. For now, let's skip this and move on to the rest. I will explain the first box later. The next box is manual actions. Here you'll see two columns, namely enter and exit. On double clicking these cells, you will execute either a manual entry order or a manual exit order. And for your kind information, each row will execute one entry and one exit order. So if you have entered once and tried to enter again by double clicking this enter cell, it won't do anything as the entry has already happened for that particular row. The same logic goes for exit. So to put it simple, in one row, there will be only one trade. So if entry has happened, then no more entries for that particular row. And if exit had been triggered, then no more exits for that particular row. This same logic goes for all the other rows. The next day or on a new day, all the rows will be reset for you to place new fresh orders. Now moving on to the next box. This box has two columns, leg and MTM, that is market to market. Here in the leg column, each cell has a drop down list of CE buy, CE sell, PE buy and PE sell. So this is where we will be choosing on either going long or going short in call or put option. So for now, I will choose CE buy option. Now regarding the MTM column, that is the market to market column, I had already mentioned that our focus is mainly on light yellowish cells, and all the other white cells are just for display or calculation purposes. However, if you look at the MTM column here, it is easily understood that this column displays the market to market profit and loss of that particular row trade. Let's move on to the next box, index info. Here we have four sub columns: symbol, exchange, LTP, that is last traded price, and ATM strike, that is at the money strike. Our focus here will be on the symbol column as it is the only column in the index info box with light yellowish color cells. Each cell in the symbol column has a drop down list of Bank Nifty, Nifty, Fin Nifty, Sensex, BankX, Nifty Next 50 and Midcap Nifty. So whatever index or future that we want to trade in will be selected here in this symbol column. For now, I will go with Nifty. Now you may ask, how do we choose to select either index or future for this underlying symbol? For that, you need to go on to the config sheet. Now, in the config sheet, you could see this cell A18, which asks if you want to track index. Now, in this, if you give the input as yes, then the main sheet F2O will track everything based on the index price. If you give no as input, then everything will be tracked based on the future price. And also, if you want the Excel to track the future price of a specific expiry date instead of the default current month expiry, then you could change that by altering the E column, that is the future column on config sheet. 1 means the current month expiry, which is default, and 2 means the next month expiry. And the preceding goes on similarly for number 3. Now back to the main sheet F2O. The next sub-column exchange is not colored in light yellow, thus indicating that it is for display purpose, and it could be easily understood that this column will represent the exchange details of the symbol, which will be automatically generated by the Excel itself. Similarly, the next two columns LTP will display the last traded price of that particular index or future symbol, and ATM strike column will display the other money strike of the current index or future price. Now moving on to the fifth box, index levels. Here we have three sub-columns named entry, stop and target. This is the box where we will instruct the Excel about our entry and exit levels. So on the first sub-column entry, we will enter the price of index or future where we are looking to go long or short. So for example purpose, I'll put the entry as 24,000 and let's keep the stop as 23,950 since we are going long, and let's put the target as 2400. Okay. So based on the entered price, once the index or future price breaches or crosses the input price, then an entry order will be triggered. Similarly, if price crosses our stop level or target level after entering the trade, the exit order will be triggered automatically. So in case if you are planning to leave this particular leg without any stop loss or target, you could simply set the stop or target cells to 0, which will disable them. So now here the stop and target has been disabled for this particular row. If you set the entry to 0, then no entry will happen. Also remember that if you have entered the row trade manually by clicking on the enter cell in the manual actions box, then no entry will occur based on the level cross, as each row will serve for only one entry and one exit per day. Also keep in mind that this entry, stop loss and target is based on the index or future price and not for the option price. For that we have a separate box. Now moving on to the sixth box, contract info. Here we have four sub columns named hash, expiry, user strike, and type. In the hash subcolumn, you will be able to choose the expiry. Each cells of the hash column has a drop-down list of numbers ranging from 1 to 8. Now, if you choose 1, which is the default value, then on the expiry column, the current weekly expiry will be displayed, indicating the selected expiry. And if you choose 2, then expiry column will display the next week expiry. And the same logic follows for rest of these numbers. So this way you could choose different expiries for different legs or rows, which will be particularly useful when your strategy is based on or similar to a calendar spread. Now moving on to the third subcolumn, user strike. This column is meant for us to enter the option strike that we prefer to trade. So for example, I'll enter this as 23,500, and since Nifty is trading around this value, technically this becomes at the money strike. Okay. But if we want to enter by the logic of at the money or one strike out of the money or two strike out of the money, then we should leave the user strike column as 0 and change the type column to our desired input. So this is the type column. So for example, I'll choose this as out of the money 2. And also note that if you want the strike selection to be by at the money, out of the money, or in the money through the type column, then make sure that the user strike column is set to 0. Because when both the column is filled, the user strike column will be prioritized for the strike selection rule. Now moving on to the 7th box, position info. Here we have 3 subcolumns named lots, stop percentage, and target percentage. In the lots column, we mention the number of lots that we would like to trade with. So for example, I'll put this as 1 lot. And also remember, it is the number of lots and not shares. The share number per lot is automatically picked up by the Excel based on the input symbol. So we don't have to worry about that. The next subcolumn, stop percentage. Now I know that we had already discussed about the SL and target previously. But remember, the previously discussed ones are for the index or future price, and the current ones that we are looking at is for individual option strikes. So when we enter any value other than 0 in the stop percentage column, the Excel will calculate the input percentage of the entered strike premium and will take it as stop loss. So for example, if I had entered a long position in call options at a premium of 100 rupees, then my stop will be at 50 rupees, since I have put 50% as the stop value here in the stop percentage subcolumn. This same logic goes for target percentage column. And if we don't wish to place any stop loss or target for option strikes individually, then we should keep them as 0 value, which the Excel will interpret as disabled. Now let's move on to the 8th box, order info, which has 3 subcolumns named product, entry type, and exit type. In the product column, each cell has a drop-down list with a couple of options, namely MIS and normal. So here we will choose either MIS for an intraday trade, or we choose normal if we wish to carry forward the trade. And also note that this Excel for now is designed to be an intraday system. However, you could choose normal in the product column if you wish to manage the trade on your own, that is outside of this Excel. Now let's move on to the next sub-column, entry type. Here too, each cells have a drop-down list with a couple of options, namely market and limit. So if we want our entry to be in market order, we go with market selection. Or if we want our entry to be in limit order, we go with limit selection. Now you may get a doubt on where we would be entering the limit price in case if you are going for a limit order. For that, we need to go to the config sheet. Here on the A15 cell, you could see an input row named as limit buffer percentage. Here, whatever percentage we enter is automatically converted to a price value based on the entered premium, and this computed value by default will be taken as the limit price for limit orders. And also note that this limit buffer percentage is only applicable for entry and target limit orders. For SL limit order, you have a separate input section in the config sheet named as SL buffer percentage, which serves the same purpose as limit buffer percentage, but for SL limit orders. The reason for giving a separate input for SL limit order is because traders usually have a bigger limit buffer percentage when it comes to stop loss. You could change this limit buffer percentage or SL buffer percentage as you wish to your desired range. Now lastly, on the config sheet at A17, you could see a cell modify delay, which takes input values in terms of seconds. Now the purpose of this modify delay value is in case if the limit order fails to be executed within the modified delay time period, then the limit order will be converted to a market order. So in this case, if the limit entry or exit order fails to be executed within 5 seconds from placing the limit order, then the limit order will be converted to a market order. Now let's get back to the F2O sheet. The next sub-column is exit type. The same logic that we just discussed right now for the entry type column goes for the exit type sub-column as well. Now moving on to the ninth box, timings. Here we have three sub-columns named begin, end, and square off. The begin and end time are the time ranges within which you want an entry to be executed. And outside of this time range, no entries through level break or manual clicks will be executed. However, you will still be able to exit any open trades either manually or through stops or targets, even outside of the time range, as it's only a filter for entry purpose. And moving on to the next sub column, square off column. Now this column is for time input at which an open trade of that particular row will be exited. Also remember that you could have different square of time for different rows if you wish to exit the legs at different times. And please note that time input is of 24 hours format. Now let's move to the first box named strategy, which we left out at the beginning. Here in this box regarding the max profit input, if the profit and loss of all the combined legs reaches the maximum profit input amount, then all the open trade of this sheet will be exited. This same logic goes for maximum loss input as well. Also remember that the max profit and max loss is entered in rupees. So for example, let's say I want to close all the trades if the total profit loss reaches 10,000 rupees. And for maximum loss, let's keep it as 5,000 rupees. And also remember that we don't need to add a negative sign before the maximum loss input value. You just need to enter it as a number. No negative signs before that. Okay. Now regarding the strategy code input, it is meant for the Excel to distinguish between different sheets of F2O. Now you may get confused because by default there is just one sheet named F2O. But in case if you want to have a different option strategy, then you could simply copy and paste another F2O sheet and rename it as you wish. I'll just do that so it'll be easy for you to understand. So move or copy and then create a copy, press OK. So now you have a copy of the original F2O sheet. Now let's rename this as F2O-2. Okay. Now in this F2O-2 sheet, you could have a complete different option strategy with different max profit and max loss. But also remember, when creating another copy of F2O sheet, make sure that you have a different strategy code in each sheet. So in F2O, the strategy code is F1. So in F2O-2, we will make it as F2. So this way, the Excel will be able to distinguish between F2O and F2O-2. Now suppose if you don't happen to have the need of making copies of the F2O sheet, then the strategy code serves no purpose and you may kindly ignore it. Now you may wonder if these rows which are used to enter and exit orders are fixed. Technically they are not. If you only require 3 or 4 rows for your trading system, then you shall just leave the rest to the default values or make sure that the leg column is set to none so that such rows will be ignored. Or if you require more rows than the default number of rows that is available, then you could simply extend it further. Now to do that, first you need to unprotect the sheet, and in order to unprotect the sheet, you should go to the reviews tab, and there you could find the option or button named unprotect sheet. You need to click on that in order to unprotect the sheet, and once you unprotect the sheet, you should select the last 2 rows of all the available columns and drag it down until the required new amount of rows is met. Now once the row extending is done, make sure to protect the sheets back. To protect the sheets, you once again need to go back to the reviews tab, and there you could find the option or button named protect sheet. Click on OK, and now your sheets are protected. All the other unexplained cells which are white in color are for display purpose. These are easily understood just from looking at their headers. So that's it, guys. If you have any doubts regarding the unexplained or explained topics, feel free to contact via Howutrade support, or you can also write your doubts in the comment section below and we will get back to them as soon as possible. Once again, thank you guys for spending your valuable time watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions or need further assistance, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.